a gap of like 20 points only in the classical rating. Li Chao is very high rated. And I think Paco just made his first move while Magnus was busy taking his jacket away. So e4, e5, I guess it was. Yeah, let's wait a bit. No, it was d4, d5 and the Slav.
He goes for the exchange Slav, if I could see it correctly, that he took on d5.
This is ultra solid for white, of course. a6 if you want to complicate matters at least a bit.
I think he will want to. For sure that Magnus will not want a quick draw.
Yeah, even though there is, well, no way he wants to push. To overpush, I mean.
Yeah, no, I think he realized that, well,
a6, yeah, a6. Oh, well, bishop e2 is one tricky move. Waiting for black bishop to move, and then he will play knight f3, because at immediate knight f3, black plays bishop g4, then e6, give the bishop away. This time e6. Well, white has something to claim, at least, that black bishop, black bishop is left on c8, somewhat passive compared to white's bishop, which is developed behind the pawn chain on f4. It's a knight f3 and h3, castle short, and, well, white is not in hurry to make a castle. No, he does. I thought he might keep some g4 intentions, but no, very slowly developed positional game. And sometimes it's amazing how Magnus manages to outplay his opponents from those calm, I'd say slightly worse positions.
Indeed, it's symmetrical, and at the same time you're black, so you can't really hope for an advantage here.
Okay, so but Vallejo played the first part of the game very quickly, so he's comfortable with the time and the position. Bishop e2 to d3. Right, you are losing the tempo, but with bishop e2 you manage to well, keep black bishop on d7, and then of course white bishop is much better placed on d3. Then sometimes bishop would go to b1 to build a sort of a battery. Bishop b1, queen d3, directed towards the king side. Knight e5 comes in as an idea, particularly after b5. I think knight e5 is a possibility. White decided to react. Yeah, white decided to react on the queen side. So a4, b4, knight to, I don't know, b1 perhaps. Knight b1 so that a6 is hanging, and then knight to d2. Probably that's the knight b1 played, right? a5 or knight a5.
Knight a5 was his last move.
Knight a5 is somewhat surprising. He left an a6 pawn unprotected. Yeah, that's...
Yes, I guess his idea is to take on c1 and capture on a4.
Yeah, so if bishop a6 is played, then indeed, yes, he takes on c1, queen c1, possibly plays queen b6 intermediate, attacking the bishop, or takes on a4 and then will play queen b6. What to do for white? Because a4 is hanging. Doesn't matter if you take on a6 or not, black wants to take c1 and take on a4. You can take c8 and play b3.
That's what he goes for.
Probably does. Queen takes c8 and knight e5. Yeah, after exchange of the rooks, a4 pawn is not hanging. So takes and knight e5 played. And did Magnus play a move? Not yet. You don't want to give this... well, that's an interesting position, this type of position, because it looks like it's blocked, right? So you would prefer knights, seemingly, over the bishops. But in fact, you don't have so many outposts for the knights. And white bishops, on contrary, light square bishop is very nice. So I think...
Knight c4 was played
Knight c4, knight c4 was played. So he's giving away...
Matters.
Yeah, giving away the bishop on d7. But it might be, yeah, queen e2 played. White decided not to take. Now there is bishop a4.
Yes, and it's
taken.
captured.
Yeah, and
I think he wants rook c1.
No, maybe he just takes on c4. And then we have this position.
He takes immediately.
We get the position unbalanced because black has a majority on the queen side, which he started to push forward, a5. White has some advantage, more pawns in the center, let's say, some advantage in the center, so it will be truly unbalanced. Even though, as far as I can see, black pawn is running very fast. You probably have to play b3 for Vallejo to stop a4, because otherwise you will have to deal with this pawn on a3. So a4 and then a3, this will be quite dangerous. Passed pawn far advanced on a3. So b3 and then to take on a4 if black plays a4, and to try to block the b pawn, not the a pawn.
Yes, he's going down under a minute.
Yeah, somewhat worrisome. What black is going to do? Well, black has b3 played. Now it's sort of unpleasant, I think, if black goes queen b7 targeting g2. Yeah, queen b7 played, f3 and then knight d5, knight h5, something like that, but probably knight d5. Chasing the bishop and heading to c3. You don't have e4, that's the problem. If white is in time to play f3 and e4, he's usually fine. But now f3, knight f3. He plays knight f3, but this gives away a lot of light squares.
Yes.
Knight d5 played, once again targeting the bishop on f4. Of course, you don't want to give this bishop, or knight will land on c3. Black is already better.
Yes, I do
think
like
black is already better. So here you go, once again. Magnus Carlsen outplays his opponent from what it seemed to be absolutely calm and somewhat worse position. Knight d5, and well, the problem for Vallejo is the time as well, because it's 7 seconds. Rook a1, attacking a5 pawn, and black can play rook a8 if he wants. Yes, rook a8 played. Supporting the pawn, knight e5. What's knight e5? Aha, so that's clever move, rook a1. So knight e5, knight c3, and white will have queen g4 or queen f1, I thought. No, probably queen g4 would be played anyway. So now knight f4, ef4, bishop g2, and probably he's planning for knight f7 or f5. But this looks like the way to go for black. I'm wondering what Magnus has on his clock. I can see Vallejo's clock, it's 6 seconds.
It's half a minute for the world champion.
Aha, so he's somewhat, has some time. Knight e5. You probably have to take f4. Yes, he does. Pawn takes, and bishop d5
to avoid knight f7.
To avoid any kind of threats after knight f7. f5 was played, and Magnus simply takes it. So calm response. Vallejo took on d5, played
and queen c4.
Queen c4. Magnus doesn't mind a queen's exchange.
And of course he takes with the knight. You don't want to create two connected passed pawns for black.
Knight takes, then a5 is hanging. Look, this is probably a nice defense by Vallejo, because potentially it can be, you know, on one side the double passed pawn doesn't mean much. The double extra pawn doesn't mean much. Yeah, no passed pawn available. Now he has to make sure the knight is not getting caught. That's what he does. King to e2, king e6. King gets far though. And black is one tempo short. Look, he would like to... White is one tempo short. He would like to play...
he lost on time.
He lost on time, but it was a lost position anyway. So if it would be white to move, it's king d3 and it's sort of a fortress, but he was not in time.